Another Hawker jet post-heavy maintenance stall test has gone horribly wrong, this time on Thursday the 16th of October, killing 3 on board the aircraft. My name's Juan Brown, you're watching the BLANCOLIRIO channel. Here's what we know so far. This video is brought to you by patrons like you that sponsor this channel here on Patreon, as this content is not suitable for all advertisers and is much too technically oriented for the average YouTube consumer. Thank you for your support. This accident occurred on Thursday, the 16th of October at 5:27 local time. Hawker 800 XP of Mexican registration, X-Ray Alpha Juliet Mike Romeo, 3 fatalities. And the destination and departure aircraft was Battle Creek, Michigan, Kellogg Regional Airport. X-Ray Alpha Juliet Mike Romeo had arrived at Battle Creek back on the 25th of March 2025, presumably to do some heavy maintenance on the aircraft. The accident was the first flight since then. Preliminary information suggests the aircraft was engaged in a stall test following maintenance. More details on that shortly. ADS-B data and live ATC net recording of Cleveland Center ATC indicated the aircraft, and we'll listen to this here in a moment, that indicated that the airplane departed Battle Creek Regional Airport at 21:08 Zulu time, and it climbed to an FMS selected altitude of 15,000 feet. The flight crew requested a block altitude from 14 to 16,000 feet before testing, which is part of the test routine. These tests need to be conducted above 10,000 feet above the ground and below 18,000 feet. At 21:27 Z time, after passing Lansing, Michigan, the aircraft began to turn left and descended about 600 feet. It climbed back up to 15,000 feet until entering a high rate of descent seconds later. The aircraft impacted terrain about 1 minute later. A radio call could be heard on Cleveland Center frequency indicating that they were in a stall. Some of the aircraft's descent was captured here on social media. And it's hard to tell, but it looks to me like the aircraft is still in one piece. Here's a picture of the accident aircraft before the accident. Here's the ADS-B data from ADS-B Exchange. Coming around the corner here, climbing up to 15,000 feet, and right about here we see the 15,000 feet set in the FMS. Now that may or may not indicate that the autopilot was on at this time. It may have just simply set 15,000 feet in the FMS, and the autopilot may have been on or may not have been on. The important point is that when you go to do these tests, and we'll review the test procedure, you need to have the autopilot off. Now looking at the tail end of this ADS-B data, they begin to slow the jet here at 15,000 feet and get it down to 100 knots or so ground speed, 102 knots, then 70 knots of ground speed, 62 knots of ground speed. They have departed controlled flight here. You are only supposed to take the test up to the stick shaker and the stick pusher and then recover. This crew departed controlled flight. And this appears to me that they departed controlled flight on their first attempt to stall the aircraft and fell all the way from 15,000 feet. The leading edge of the Hawker jet is a bolt-on leading edge. There are no leading edge slats or drag devices associated with the Hawker jet. There is this TKS known icing wing weeping panel on the leading edge of the Hawker jet. And these panels need to be periodically inspected. So the entire leading edge of the jet needs to be removed and inspected. And here's a look at what some of that work looks like. When this work is completed and the leading edge is reattached to the wing, a very carefully executed stall test needs to be performed on the aircraft to ensure that the panels are installed correctly and that the stall strips are installed correctly and that the aircraft performs correctly. This stall test needs to be performed by a crew that is familiar with doing the stall procedure in the Hawker jet, and preferably a crew that has spin training as well. Because in a swept-wing jet, these stalls can become quite violent and take a lot of room to recover from. Now here's the exact procedure right out of the manual, taken from the video that we covered back in 2024, the last time this happened, out at Grand Junction, Colorado, back in February of 2024. So investigators will be looking to make sure, did the crew comply with this part of the conditions for the stall before performing the test on this aircraft? And did this crew use the correct technique and procedure for doing this stall procedure as spelled out here in the manual? Reference this previous video for the details on all this. Or was there something mechanically wrong with the aircraft that would have prevented a proper stall recovery? Because this is a swept-wing jet with a T-tail configuration, there's no natural buffet of this aircraft prior to stall. So on these high-performance jets, you have built in a stick shaker that shakes the stick violently as you approach the stall, and then if the speed continues to decrease, a stick pusher will literally push the stick forward, and this is part of the systems that you are testing in this test. But the most important part is that the pilots conducting the stall checks should have prior experience in performing stalls in the Hawker and must be prepared for unacceptable stall behavior at any point leading up to and throughout the maneuver. Because once the stall test goes off schedule, as you might say, you are in test pilot territory. And this is the point I want to make, is that why are we continuing to send up crews, just regular flight crews, to do these tests? Was this crew a certified stall test procedure crew from Hawker aircraft? Let me cut that and say that again. In my opinion, we should only be sending up crews that are certified in the stall test and spin qualified testing procedures in these Hawker aircraft. Here we are with the same accident, a year later. The NTSB final report is not out on the first accident, and we have a second accident very similar to the previous accident. Now let's take a listen to the ATC audio leading up to this, and there's quite a bit of confusion between the crew and ATC, in the crew trying to explain to ATC what kind of a clearance they're trying to get to conduct these tests.
Aircraft Juliet Mike, Romeo, Cleveland Center, Lima Altimeter 3016.
3016, Juliet Arrow.
Aircraft Juliet Mike, Romeo, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Just for request work area for plus 2,000 in 15000.
You're just requesting a place to fly around for 15000. Aircraft Juliet Mike, Romeo, do you just need an area to fly around to get some work done?
Yes, sir. The flight 15,000, but protection area of 1,000, minus 1,000, and around 10 miles of any point.
Aircraft Juliet Mike, Romeo, you're coming in pretty broken. Exactly what you need. Say it again.
It almost sounds like he was on a different mic or the wrong mic.
We need an area of 10 miles around. Most of the time 15,000, but we could climb 1,000 or descend 1,000 from our altitude.
Aircraft Juliet Mike, Romeo, I think both of you are stepping on each other, and it's coming in pretty broken here. So one at a time, what do you need?
It sounds almost like the two crew members are talking to each other, trying to explain to each other how to tell ATC what they need. They need a block of altitude to work with and an area to work with as well to conduct a flight test.
Yes, sir. How do you hear me?
Aircraft Juliet Mike, Romeo, I hear you loud and clear now, so try it again.
Okay, sir. Just for request a work area and 15000, and between the 2000 and plus less for work area.
Aircraft Juliet Mike Romeo, you need a work area at 15000, and are you going to be going plus and minus altitude? Is that what you're trying to say, or no?
Affirmative, sir.
See the other pilot coaching the pilot talking on the radio as to what to say. This does not sound like a professional test pilot crew. This sounds to me to be the pilots that routinely fly this aircraft.
Between 14 and 15 and 16,000 area.
Aircraft Juliet Mike Romeo, flighting 360.
Like it in 360, Alpha Unit Bravo.
Aircraft Juliet Mike Romeo, maintain block 14,000 through 16,000.
Okay, 14,000 and 16,000 Alpha Unit Bravo.
Aircraft Juliet Mike Romeo, do you need anything else?
No, sir, thank you very much.
No problem. Let me know if you do.
Thanks. No, sir.
Aircraft Juliet Mike Romeo, Cleveland.
We are in stall recovery, sir. Stall recovery, sorry.
Aircraft Juliet Mike Romeo, Cleveland Center, stay altitude.
They've lost control of the aircraft already.
Aircraft Juliet Mike Romeo, Cleveland Center. X-Ray Juliet Mike Romeo, Cleveland Center, how do you read?
So I had to get my Jenny to help translate that, but it sounded to me, or to us, that he was saying a stall recovery, or a stall recovery. And this corroborates with the video evidence that this aircraft was in a deep stall, perhaps not quite developed into a spin. So if you're a regular Hawker pilot, regular line flying Hawker pilot, and you get tasked with one of these test procedures, I would highly recommend that you defer the test to some professional flight test engineer type pilots from Hawker aircraft to perform this test. And if you're an owner of a Hawker, I would advise the same advice. It's going to take the NTSB a long time to try to figure out why this crew could not recover this aircraft from the mandatory stall test that's required after heavy maintenance on these Hawker aircraft. Thank you so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon that make this content possible. See you here.